Glen is a Buddhist practice that is taught word of mouth. It's a compassion practice, essentially means giving and taking. It is a way to connect with somebody who is suffering and to be a compassionate presence. Now, it's also, I believe, the ultimate Christian practice. I like to talk about a compassion practice in the context of the Eastern language and Eastern construct because of the value of the language difference. I grew up in a bilingual, bicultural household, and I know that sometimes words and phrases in one language don't easily translate into the other language with the nuances. And in our particular case, the word charity, which appears frequently in the biblical text, has taken on a connotation of being intentional, of intentionally giving to a charity, intentionally doing a good deed. As a matter of fact, it's been a number of years since charity has not been the word used in translation in English, which is fair because the culture has changed it. So Tonglen is a practice that I think very much fits what St. Paul says in his letter to the Galatians. I live not by my own life, but the life of Christ who lives in me. And my sense is that when we are compassionate, we're expressing compassion, that it's not a thing that you think through ahead of time. It's something that you do because this is the right response. So let me walk through the format to begin with. First of all, you pick somebody who you are going to pray for. You do this ahead of time. Decide who it is that you know who is in some way suffering, and that could probably be just about anyone that you're going to care for, you're going to pray for. Then I'm going to ask you to take a comfortable posture. If you're sitting on a pillow and a cushion, if you don't have to sit lotus, sit in whatever way you are comfortable that you know how. If you're sitting in a chair, feet flat on the floor with your hands on your lap and your back as straight as you can, that is comfortable. Then I'm going to ask you to do a calming practice. And so when you do this yourself, you can do it 3 to 5 minutes, but time it. I'm going to be the timer. Always when you do a meditation practice, setting a timer is important. So you don't have to pay attention to, is it time? You don't get distracted. Then I'm going to ask you to do an imaging practice. We're going to use image and imagination, which in religious context is not unusual to Christians either, although it's very prevalent in the Tibetan circles. If you're Catholic and you have ever done Stations of the Cross, then you're using imagery and you're using imagination and to put yourself there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through an exercise to soften our hearts so that we could open our hearts and to allow this person suffering to flow in and to allow God's breath to flow through our hearts to the person. So imagine initially that your heart is like a flower, a lotus bud. And we're going to spend time softening our hearts, warming our hearts, relaxing one petal at a time so that over time we can be a little more open-hearted and softer and warmer. So it becomes more kind of like this, where we're open-hearted and we'll be relaxing and pulling back each petal of our heart uh, so that we can do this practice. After that, I'm going to ask you to do the exchange, to allow the pain and hurt of another person to enter your heart. And it's not going to hurt you because it's going through right to God's hands. And then I'm going to ask you to allow compassion, God's breath, to flow through you to the suffering person. And we're going to repeat this several times. So, if you don't mind, let's begin. Identify who you're going to be praying for. And take a comfortable posture. And I'm going to set the timer. Let's begin a calming practice. Again, what I want you to do is, with your awareness, focus on your breath. Focus on your inhale. Keep your awareness focused on your exhale. And then focus on a felt sense of the body. Pay attention to your inhale. Pay attention to your exhale. And then the felt sense of the body. And continue doing this. If a thought happens to pop up, don't just notice it, don't get lost in it. Let it go by, come back to your breath. We're going to do this because it has a calming effect. Focus on your in-breath, focus on your exhale, and focus on the felt sense of the body. Don't get lost in thought. If you find yourself being dragged away by a thought, just steer your mind back to your breath. Be very interested in your breath. Be aware of your inhale. Be aware of your exhale. Be aware of the felt sense of the body. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to move your awareness to your heart center. Be aware of your heart. You're going to put yourself in God's care. You're going to soften your heart. Again, imagine the petal, imagine the lotus, and as you relax your heart gradually, each time, each moment, a petal will open, and allow this to occur gradually. You want to be comfortably open-hearted. There may be some tension that you find there. Just relax your heart. Pull back the tension as best you can, one moment at a time, one petal at a time, until you could be more open-hearted. Just relax your heart. Maybe feel a sense of warmth in your heart. And be more open. Be as open as you comfortably can be. Again, if there's some sort of tension, just relax it. It's okay. Open your heart. Focus with your attention on your heart space. We're going to surrender our heart to God's hands. We're going to let go. Let God hold our open heart. And we're going to open our heart as best we can. Just ease whatever tension you can. Relax one petal at a time. Now imagine that there is a suffering person sitting about 6 feet in front of you. As you breathe in, whatever suffering that person is experiencing, you bring forward to enter into your heart. Don't pull on it, just allow it to come to you. It will not hurt you. It will go through your heart to God's hands. And then on your exhale, you will allow God's compassionate presence, God's breath to flow with yours and to go over and to touch and to caress and to hold the suffering person. So on the in-breath, you take in the suffering. On your out-breath, you allow to go forth compassion and nurturing. We do this, we repeat this several times. The idea is to get yourself, your ego, out of this and allow whatever suffering this person has to flow into your heart space, and then to allow compassionate care to flow on your breath out to this person. Keep repeating this process. Well, in Christianity and in Buddhism, to be compassionate is to bear witness to suffering without fear. It means to hold the tension as best you can. If you find it difficult to take in and receive the full extent of someone's suffering, then take in a little. Take in as much as you can. Even if it's difficult. However, if this is too difficult, if this is too troubling, then you could do the compassion expression portion of the practice. this, if that's what you do. We do what we can. We are where we need to be. We react the way we need to react. The practice is meant to reduce the grab of suffering on someone, not to inflict suffering on you instead. So be as open-hearted as you can be. Receive the suffering that you can, and express the compassion that you're able to allow flow with your breath to embrace the suffering person. Keep doing this. So we're breathing in and allowing the suffering of the person to go directly into our heart. And in breathing out, we're allowing the compassionate breath of God to flow through our hearts with our breath to surround and comfort the suffering person. This is Tonglen. And we do this several times. Okay, you could come to. This is basically the Tonglen exercise. I encourage you to try it at different times. I would time it. I think that 3 to 5 minutes for the calming practice, depending on your day and the extent of your practice. I would say 3 to 5 minutes for opening your heart. Decide ahead of time and set the timer. And then 5 minutes for the Tonglen exchange or whatever works for you. I hope you enjoy.